Have you ever noticed that the most respected people aren't always the most liked? What if the very act of chasing likability is what's keeping you from earning real respect? The truth is, respect and likability often travel different roads. Have you ever bent your boundaries just to be liked? I'd love to hear your story in the comments. I genuinely want to understand your experience. In the shadows of history stands Niccolo Machiavelli, misunderstood, often vilified, yet eerily accurate about human nature. His insights confirm something we all sense but rarely admit. Sometimes to be respected, you have to accept not being liked. This tension is in every relationship, with co-workers, family, friends, even strangers. A person constantly chasing approval moves through the world very differently from someone who naturally commands respect. Whether you're a student, a parent, a creator, or a leader, once you understand this distinction, the way people see you changes forever. Think about it. Why is it that some people walk into a room and instantly command attention, while others, just as smart, just as talented, seem invisible? What's happening beneath the surface? And here's something to ponder. Who's someone you truly respect, even if you don't particularly like them? What exactly do they do that earns your respect? Let me know in the comments. Your perspective really matters here. The journey. 10 core insights. 1. The respect paradox. The first uncomfortable truth: respect often requires distance, while likability demands closeness. Think of the teacher you respected most in school. Was it the one trying to be your friend? Or was it the one who maintained clear boundaries, demanded excellence, and wasn't concerned with being popular? Machiavelli understood that authority and friendship exist in tension. When you blur these lines, you risk diminishing both. Let me share something that happened to me. Years ago, I worked with a manager named James, who desperately wanted everyone to like him. He avoided difficult conversations, relaxed deadlines when people complained, and tried to be everyone's friend. 6 months later, the team was underperforming, missing targets, and behind his back, they called him Pushover Pete. When he was eventually replaced, his successor, Sarah, set clear expectations and wasn't afraid of necessary conflict. She transformed the same team into top performers within weeks. They didn't like her the way they liked James, but their respect for her was unmistakable. But here's where it gets interesting. This distance isn't about being cold. It's about something much more powerful. Have you ever lost someone's respect by trying too hard to be liked? What happened? Let me know in the comments. 2. The power of selective vulnerability. Machiavelli wrote, "It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both." But what he's really talking about is the power of controlled vulnerability. Most people either hide all weaknesses or overshare everything. Both extremes diminish respect. The master of respect reveals vulnerabilities strategically, not as cries for sympathy, but as demonstrations of self-awareness and strength. Imagine a leader who openly acknowledges a mistake, takes full responsibility, and then decisively fixes it. They don't apologize excessively or seek reassurance. Their vulnerability becomes a display of confidence. What I realized next completely changed how I understood human psychology. When was the last time someone's confidence in their own vulnerability impressed you? Share that moment in the comments. These stories are fascinating. If you're finding value in these insights so far, take a second to like this video and subscribe. It helps more people discover this conversation. Now, let's dive even deeper into the psychology of earning respect. 3. The consistency principle. People respect what they can predict. Inconsistency breeds contempt, while consistency builds trust, even when your consistent choices aren't popular. Think about someone whose opinion constantly shifts with the crowd. Now think of someone who holds their ground, even when standing alone. Which one do you respect more? Machiavelli observed that princes who changed their minds frequently were seen as weak, regardless of their intentions. Your word must become unbreakable law, especially to yourself. But consistency alone isn't enough. There's an essential element most people miss entirely. What's one principle you refuse to compromise on, no matter the pressure? Share it below. Your conviction might inspire someone else. 4. The scarcity of attention. Your attention is currency. When you give it too freely, its value decreases. When you dispense it carefully, its worth multiplies. Machiavelli understood that leaders who were constantly available became ordinary in the eyes of others. Those who created scarcity around their presence were perceived as extraordinary. This reflects what Nietzsche called the will to power, not domination over others, but mastery over yourself and your resources. When you carefully guard your most precious resource, your attention, you demonstrate this mastery. In our hyper-connected world, instant availability signals low value. Strategic presence signals high value. The difference is power. What I'm about to share next contradicts everything modern culture teaches about winning people over. How do you feel when someone you respect takes time to give you their full attention? Tell me in the comments. I want to hear your experience. 5. The virtue of necessary conflict. Respected individuals don't avoid necessary conflict. They embrace it with calm precision. Machiavelli knew that conflict avoidance breeds contempt. When you refuse to address issues directly out of fear of being disliked, you signal weakness. Consider the difference between the manager who ignores underperformance to maintain good vibes versus one who addresses issues promptly, fairly, and directly. The first creates resentment. The second earns respect, even from those being corrected. But the way you approach conflict matters immensely, and this next insight reveals the hidden pattern. When has addressing a conflict directly earned you more respect? Share your story. It might help someone facing a similar situation. 6. The dignity of boundaries. Your boundaries define you. When you allow them to be crossed repeatedly, you teach others that your dignity is negotiable. Machiavelli observed that rulers who allowed small disrespects would eventually face larger ones. The same applies in your relationships, career, and personal life. The respect paradox appears again here. People may not like your boundaries, but they will respect them, and by extension, respect you. But the true master of respect understands something even more subtle. What boundary have you established that initially created tension, but ultimately earned respect? I'd love to hear your experience in the comments. 7. The power of calculated generosity. Machiavelli understood that generosity, deployed strategically rather than constantly, creates lasting impact and respect. When you give endlessly, people take endlessly. But when your generosity is deliberate, unexpected and meaningful, it commands deep respect. Think of someone who rarely offers help but delivers powerfully when they do, versus someone who constantly offers but rarely follows through completely. The first person's assistance feels like gold, the second's like copper. What I realized next completely transformed how I approached every interaction. When has someone's unexpected generosity earned your lasting respect? Share that moment. These stories reveal so much about human nature. 8. The strength of decisive action. Respected individuals don't wait for perfect information. They act decisively with the information available. Machiavelli observed that hesitation creates doubt in the minds of others. Even an imperfect decision, executed with conviction, earns more respect than perpetual deliberation. In a world of endless options and information overload, The ability to cut through noise and commit to action sets you apart. People may disagree with your choice, but they'll respect your clarity. But decisiveness without this next element can lead to catastrophe. When has making a quick, firm decision earned you respect, even if it wasn't perfect? I want to hear your story in the comments. If these insights are resonating with you, consider sharing this video with someone who might benefit from it. Now, let's explore the deeper psychological dimensions of commanding respect. 9. The courage of unpopular truths. The path to respect often requires speaking truths others avoid, not to hurt, but to illuminate. Machiavelli's most valuable service to his prince wasn't flattery, it was unvarnished truth that no one else dared speak. This is the essence of respect-worthy counsel. Carl Jung understood this when he spoke of the shadow, those uncomfortable truths we hide from ourselves and others. Jung wrote, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls." The person who helps others face these shadows earns a respect that transcends mere likability. When you prioritize comfortable lies over uncomfortable truths, you may be temporarily liked, but never deeply respected. The courage to speak clearly when others speak vaguely sets you apart. But speaking truth requires something that most people completely lack. Has someone ever earned your respect by telling you a truth you didn't want to hear? What was that experience like? Share below. I'm genuinely curious. 10. The wisdom of controlled emotions. Your emotions reveal your governance. Not the absence of emotion, but the mastery of it commands respect. Machiavelli understood that a leader whose emotions were easily triggered was easily controlled. The person who remains composed under pressure demonstrates true power. Think of someone who remains calm when insulted versus someone who immediately reacts. The first person maintains their power, the second surrenders it instantly. This doesn't mean suppressing emotions. It means choosing when and how to express them. Strategic vulnerability, not constant emotional reactivity. Everything you've learned leads to one fundamental revelation. When has maintaining emotional control in a difficult situation earned you respect? Your story might help someone else find their strength. Everything modern culture teaches about earning respect might be fundamentally wrong. We're told to be endlessly agreeable, constantly available, and perpetually accommodating. But what if the path to genuine respect requires something entirely different? Something that feels counterintuitive at first, but aligns perfectly with human psychology. The greatest respect isn't born from likability. It emerges from a much deeper place. Have you ever felt torn between being respected and being liked? How did you navigate that tension? Share your journey in the comments. Here's the core truth that changes everything. Respect isn't earned through external manipulation. It's commanded through internal sovereignty. When you govern yourself impeccably, your thoughts, your emotions, your words, your actions, others instinctively recognize your authority. Machiavelli's most profound insight wasn't about controlling others, but about controlling yourself. The prince who masters himself needs no external validation. As Nietzsche wrote, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." Your why must come from within, not from others' approval. When you endure the temporary suffering of standing alone, you transform into someone worthy of the deepest respect. Chasing likability hands others power over you. Standing in your authority reclaims that power. The first creates dependency, the second creates respect. The painful truth is that respect often requires standing alone, making decisions others disagree with, speaking truths others avoid. But this solitude isn't weakness, it's the ultimate demonstration of strength. When have you chosen respect over likability? What did that choice cost you? And what did it ultimately give you? Your story matters. Share it below. Let me offer you 3 immediate practices to embody Machiavellian respect in your daily life. First, identify where you're surrendering power for approval. Where are you saying yes when you want to say no? Where are you agreeing externally while disagreeing internally? Each of these moments is an opportunity to realign with respect. Imagine this scenario. Your colleague presents an idea in a meeting that you know is flawed. Everyone else nods along. The easy path? Join the nodding. The respect path? Calmly stating, "I see your point, but here's my concern." In that moment, you choose truth over comfort, substance over surface, and even those who disagree will silently note your courage. Second, practice the pause. Before responding to requests, criticism, or praise, pause. This small space demonstrates that you govern your reactions rather than being governed by them. It signals that your response comes from choice, not compulsion. Finally, speak with precision. Eliminate qualifiers that weaken your message. Sort of, kind of, maybe, just. Mean what you say, and say exactly what you mean. This verbal clarity demonstrates internal clarity. None of these practices is about manipulating others. They're about embodying genuine authority, the kind that commands respect naturally without demanding it. Remember, Machiavelli's prince wasn't feared because he was cruel. He was respected because he was consistent, decisive, and unflinchingly clear about his boundaries and values. Which of these practices will you commit to this week? Share your intention below. Declaring it publicly strengthens your resolve. There's a profound liberation in making peace with not being universally liked. Not everyone will understand your choices. Not everyone will appreciate your boundaries. Not everyone will celebrate your success. And that's exactly as it should be. True respect isn't measured in likes, applause, or temporary approval. It's measured in the silent recognition that passes between individuals who recognize authentic power in each other. As you move through your world with this new understanding, you'll begin to notice something remarkable. The quality of your connections deepens, even as their quantity may decrease. You attract those who value substance over surface, respect over mere liking. The parts of yourself that once sought approval at any cost are now your greatest source of genuine authority. You've discovered that commanding respect never required you to become someone else, only to fully embody who you truly are. What's one area of your life where you'll choose respect over likability starting today? Share your commitment below. Your journey matters. And remember, the respect you most deeply crave isn't waiting in the eyes of others. It's waiting in the mirror, when you honor your truth without compromise. If you're interested in taking this journey deeper, my video on The Shadow Self, Carl Jung's Path to Authentic Power, explores how confronting your darker aspects creates unshakable inner strength. The perfect companion to the Machiavellian respect principles we've explored today.